talked about food chains and food webs and how different organisms in different ecosystems basically exchange energy. They convert matter into energy, and then energy is passed from one organism to another. So the next way that we want to look at about how energy is moved from one organism to another is something called an energy pyramid. So our learning target today is I can use an energy pyramid to explain how energy flows through a food web. I want to remind you that when you watch videos or when you watch these lessons that you can always come back to them. And you can pause and you can return and you can go forward. You can do whatever you want with the videos so that you can relearn information or see it again. All right, so our important term today is energy pyramid. Say it with me. Energy pyramid. It's a diagram that shows the amount of energy that moves from one feeding level to another in a food web. So you can see that it's in the form of a triangle. It means this space has the most energy. This one has a little bit less. This one has a little bit less. You see, though, also bacteria, I put in yellow. I kind of color-coded it. Remember, bacteria are decomposers or fungi are decomposers, okay? A lot of insects are also decomposers. They help break things down in environments. So I put them at the top and the bottom, but really decomposers could be anywhere because anytime anything dies or rots, a decomposer is doing that job, okay? So usually at the bottom of a food pyramid or an energy pyramid, you can call it either one. At the bottom of an energy pyramid are the producers. I colored it green because they're usually plants. So when you make your pyramid, please make sure you try and use some color. And if the only color that you use is green, please make sure you use it in the plants section. The second level are the primary consumers. Those are herbivores. They're primary consumers. They're the first thing that eats the plants. So let me ask you this. If you look around, do you see tons and tons of foxes? You don't. Do you see tons and tons of plants? You do. There's a lot more plants than there are carnivores because there's less energy, because there's less available food, right? So plants get their energy from sunlight, and so there's lots of energy available to plants. And then herbivores are what immediately eat plants. They're the primary consumer. Again, they're the first thing that eats the plants, okay? Primary means like the first. So herbivores are things like rabbits and squirrels, usually small rodents, okay? Mice. They eat anything that comes from plants, berries, nuts, leaves, fruit, okay? Now, the next level up are secondary consumers, and these are carnivores. These carnivores eat these herbivores, okay? And those are secondary consumers, and there's less energy available at the top. So what you need to know is that at each level in the pyramid, the organisms use some of the energy for life processes. So I'd like you to imagine for a moment that a great big dinosaur came in and ate Mrs. Tomlinson right now. Okay. So Mrs. Tomlinson had breakfast this morning, right? So let's say I had an egg for breakfast. Did the dinosaur that just ate me get all of the energy from my breakfast, from that egg? Okay, it did not. So the reason it did not is because I'm using energy to breathe and blink, and my heart is beating, my body is moving, my blood vessels have cells in them. Cells are replacing themselves. I'm sure you have a bruise or a cut somewhere that's healing. Those are kind of life processes. And so every time you consume something, the minute you consume it and your body starts to absorb it, it's also given off as heat. And you know you have heat. You can touch right here. You can feel nice and warm heat, right? And your stomach is probably pretty warm. Your fingers are cooler because you don't actually need your fingers to survive. You've seen people without fingers and they can still live. But your organs have to be a certain temperature, so your body has to monitor that temperature, and it uses the energy that it gets from food to keep that temperature the same, and you end up giving off heat, right? So when I ate that egg this morning, my body used some of that energy as heat. Did the dinosaur eat all the heat that it ate, did the dinosaur eat all of that energy? The answer is no from the egg because I gave it off as heat before the dinosaur even ate me, okay? All right, so today on page 13, let me see if I can move this. Today on page 13, oh, there it is, you have a couple of options. You need to make a diagram of an energy pyramid, include at least 4 trophic levels. The trophic levels are producers, primary consumers, secondary consumers, decomposers, okay? Or, and you can look on Google for that if you want and just like find an example and you can just copy it down into your notebook and that would be acceptable. Or again, use your resources on the front page of Schoology. Or you can take this space and explain why there's less energy available for tertiary consumers. Those are, remember, the tertiary consumers are those at the top. So let's review what those actually are by looking at page 14. Oh my gosh, yes, lots of notebook today. Notebook is awesome. So we're going to still continue with the same or similar learning target. I can explain the roles that organisms play in the movement of energy in an ecosystem, and these are the roles they play. So the first one is primary consumers. Say it with me. Primary consumers. Primary consumers are organisms that get energy directly from plants. These are herbivores. Secondary consumers. Say it with me. Secondary consumers. They're organisms which get energy from eating primary consumers, which are carnivores or omnivores. Oh, look, I missed out on an E there. Tertiary consumer. Say it with me. Tertiary consumer. A tertiary consumer is a carnivore at the topmost level in a food chain that feeds on other carnivores or secondary consumers. This can also be an omnivore. It doesn't have to be a carnivore. Remember, an omnivore eats both meat and plants, right? Okay. So a little bit of note taking here. At each level in an energy pyramid, there's less energy than at the level below. The most energy is available at the producer level. Remember, that's because we have lots of plants, and energy that plants get comes from the sun, and there's endless energy from the sun. All right, enjoy your day today. Watch a couple of videos and finish your lesson. Have a good one.